Hey, welcome back, everybody. It's time to talk about Glowin Dragon. This is probably, out of all the not anime decks that has come out in Divines, this is like the most hype one for me. I think the deck's super cool. It reminds me of like Chrono Fang and Vanguard G or Mystery Flare in the V series with the bind conditions, and obviously the aesthetics of Gear Chronicle. Like you can never go wrong with that. I love it. So we're gonna hop on in and talk about this guy. Now, his ride line is really cool. First of all, Baby Chicken. We love Baby Chicken. Second is Gamel. Now, Gamel says when the grade 2 rides over it, you Soul Blast 1, draw 2 cards, discard a normal unit. Which is really nice. It helps keeps your hand full because you definitely want to keep the hand full. And the grade 2 that we're going to ride over doesn't specifically say Glowin. It says specifically Gear Dragon. So if you are a fan of time stamping Dragon, this ride line is just a straight upgrade to that deck. But what he does is you look at top 5 when he's ridden over, and if it's a grade 3 or less, you get to call it to field. But if it's like a grade 4 unit, which we do play a grade 4, you get to add it to your hand, which is really cool. And then lastly is Glowwind himself. Now Glowwind has two different abilities. The first is you bind a card from Soul to bottom deck one of your opponent's cards, which is really cool. And if your opponent's at grade 3, it gets +5. There's a lot of very interesting like spots you can use this for. Uh, my favorite for when I play with my buddies is to like bottom deck his Ezwar, and then he's like, "Dude, come on, I gotta get that back." And I was like, "Oh, you should have grabbed another one, right?" But it's real. Uh, it's a really good ability. And then the second ability is what gets the deck going. It's when it attacks, you counterblast one and bind two rear guards, and then you call up to two cards from your deck with the same or with grades equal to the cost that you have bound. So normally to get like the full combo, for example, let's just throw out like two cards or whatever, right? If I got these on my field and I bind these, I'm able to call, obviously I can call a 3 and a 2, or I could call a 4 and a 1, which the 4 is what you normally want to call. So basically, we're always trying to have the grades that we bind equal 4. That is the goal for his on attack because the Colossus does the most damage for the deck, and it's kind of our main win con. So we'll go straight into that. Now that we're done with the ride line, we'll talk about the very obvious, the Persona rides. You got to play Persona rides, and then our Regalis piece of choice is Forbidal. So the grade 4 that we can add from deck to hand has a decent hand effect, which obviously we're gonna get into. So that's really nice. But also, if you're like, hey, I don't really want to add the grade 4 to hand, just like I'd rather keep them in deck. You grab two grade 3s and you just swing counterblast, get rid of those, and then you're hitting bigger numbers in your bind zone. And it's like it's perfect. It's everything you could want, right? Moving on to the man himself. This is Eternal Overlord Colossus. He is such a pretty card. I am so glad they made a deck around this. Uh, Basically, he's got two abilities. The first is if he's in your hand, you can Energy Blast 3 to bind him and draw two cards. So he's never a brick in your hand, and he can always get you to more cards, which is really important. Also, you can't ride him, very important. And he's 18k base, which is really cool. But his other ability is when he's placed, you get to, depending on the grades in your bind zone, get effects. Now, really quick, it is when placed and not continuous. So there is. Let me see if I can grab him real quick. There's this little gear parrot right here that can put cards back from your bind zone. If you call this out during the battle phase at the same time you call this, as long as you activate his on play first, afterwards you can be like, well, I have no more grade 4s in my deck and I want an extra one in my deck. You can just put one of them back with this, which is really nice. But basically, if you have 10 or more in bind, So the goal on first turn is to hit 10 or more. You get plus 20k, and at the end of turn, you can bind him and draw a card if he attacked. Again, it's really nice. You're swinging for 38 by himself. If you got a booster, it's like 46, 48. Like it's just free. If you hit 20 or more, I believe is when he gets the restand ability. Yeah, counterblast 1 to restand. So you can just swing for 38, counterblast, restand, swing for 38 again. Insane. And if you hit 30 or more, now I'm going to be honest with you guys, 30 or more has not come up yet. I haven't really hit it, but when I do, it's going to feel amazing. But 30 or more is he gets a crit, which is just, it's really nice, right? So this is the big win con of the deck. You are just constantly trying to call him out during the battle phase and hit your opponent really hard. And then the other grade 3s, we have 4 copies of this guy. So he's going to get 5k shield and 5k power as long as you are a Gear Dragon Vanguard, which is really nice, right? And then you can, in the drop, Energy Blast 3. If during the main phase you bind something, you get to call him back. He's a little Combine Rusher, but it's really nice. It gives you an extra outlet to pour your energy into if you don't have the him in hand Energy Blast 3 and draw cards. And the last one, because it's a grade 4 deck, we're playing 3 copies of Nocturzio. So the thing with Nocturzio in this deck is he's a really good Forbidal target. If you discard him to ride a grade 3, you get to draw a card. And also, if you look at your damage and you're like, hey, I have a counterblast I can spare for this turn, he draws you a card and sets up your soul, which is really nice because then you can do, you have more targets to bind for Glowin Dragon's effect from your soul, which you'll normally be putting grade 3s in there because you want the bigger grades that you can get, right? Uh, but we also play a certain card that lets you call cards from Soul. So realistically, if you're like, hey, maybe there's like, I don't know, there's a random guy I want to call, get back, you can just put it to Soul and call it the next turn. So he is a really good card. I don't know about playing a 4th copy. I don't feel like it's necessary. I think 3 is fine. It's also a 15k shield if you have the grade 4 in hand, which is nice. But I think this is a okay lineup. If there are things that if you would rather play like a 4th copy, I will show you a card that you can take out for it, but I think this is perfectly fine for now. Moving on to the grade 2s, is a very small grade 2 count. So we're playing 1 copy of Tizkar, and the card that calls cards from Souls is the Black Thunder Queen. So here's the thing. This could easily be the Persona ticket uh, cycler, which is perfectly fine. Uh, this is just a draw for us if we discard it, and that's kind of what we want. And then Tiskar, I mean, again, that could also be, it could even be one. You could play one of this and then 4 of the Persona ticket, and then just get rid of the Tiskar. But the Tiskar is nice because there's some games where you just have a random 3 energy to blow. So, and you can use Tiskar defensively during your opponent's turn, which is kind of nice. The Ace unit, I don't know. The Ace unit feels like it conflicts with the deck randomly. I don't know how else to describe it, but every game that I've hit the Ace unit, my game has been really bad. So I've just opted to take it out. Uh, Again, there's another card I can show you in the list you can put the Ace unit back in for, but I think for now this is like just a good ratio. You want to have like 5 to 6 cyclers, and then not to mention you have the Nocturzio, which is kind of a cycler in a way. So you technically have 8 cyclers, so not bad. On to the grade ones. The grade 1 portion is a little big. So we have this new girl, and she has 2 things, which is during your turn, if you bound a card, she gets an extra grade and plus 2k power, which is really nice. So you can bind her as a grade 2. Mind you, she won't keep the grade in the bind zone, but at least for whatever you call off with Glowin, she'll count as a grade 2. But I don't really use the grade part of the effect that much. The important part of her effect is at the end of the battle she boosted. If your Vanguard is a Gear Dragon that has Persona Ride, you can bind her to draw a card. So you just get to fill up like the deck with extra, or you get to fill up your bind zone with extra grades, which is really nice because you can do normally like I'll show you at the end, but like normally the pattern is you're swinging with both rear guards, and then you're swinging with Vanguard just to get the most like cards bound off of your field if you have a bunch of copies of these. We have the aforementioned Gear Parrot. This is basically just to bind or take cards from your bind zone and put them back. You could also do from drop, but take cards from your bind zone and put them back to your deck. So again, this will be like if you see that you've already bound, like if you've bound 3 of these and you're about to call another one, you can just call this, put use his effect first, and then use his effect to put one of these back, and then end of turn, this will go into the bind zone, and then you'll have one of these for next turn on the bottom of your deck. Uh, Again, it's a really nice skill, and it is always appreciated. However, sometimes you have rough games, and sometimes you either damage check all these gear parrots, or you just have such a lack of grade fours to in your bind zone. So, well, not in your bind zone. Sorry, getting them out of your bind zone. So I play one of this little frog, and this frog does the same thing as the gear parrot, but it can also soul charge one. Uh, it's okay, realistically. Uh, this is the like flex spot of the deck. I like the idea of having an extra way to get things out of my bind zone. Well, specifically the Gear Colossus. But if you don't like the extra copy of this card, Nocturzio, the Ace unit, any of the cyclers, like go for it, man. But I like having the extra like safety net because sometimes I damage check a bunch of these and I'm like, oh my god, I can't get if you can't get the Gear Colossus out of your bind zone and back into your deck so you can keep calling him out, your deck does nothing. So and then one copy of the cat. The cat's like it's probably not the best choice, but it's also like there are a lot of games where I feel like I burn through counterblast pretty quick, so I like having the safety net that I can countercharge if I need to. And then I mean, if we're talking about grade ones, we're talking about 4 perfect guards. I mean, every deck plays them. Nothing too new there. So that's it for the grade ones, and we can move on to the trigger count. And the trigger count, I'm going to save over trigger for end actually, because the part we don't really need to talk about is you're playing 8 crits. Obviously, you have to play fronts because this deck draws a lot, and you will deck out if you play draw triggers. And the soul fronts don't really matter in this deck, so just the 5k shield fronts are really good, and then obviously 4 heals. Now, for the over trigger of choice, which is a little weird, I am playing the shoot, what was his name again? It's like Vamfreeze. So getting the 10k and a crit on your Vanguard for the rest of the game, and the reason why is your Vanguard specifically has no pressure, like no pressure whatsoever. A lot of times your opponent will just kind of like willy nilly guard against your Vanguard. Like you will never see a game where they perfect guard your Vanguard. So I kind of like the idea of constantly having 10k and a crit to give the Vanguard like some actual pressure. That being said, blue OT is a really good choice. You could do red OT if you really want to, but like you, your guy can already restand if you hit the certain number of cards. So I don't know, but I think blue OT or this one is a perfectly good choice. You could also, there's this weird world where you can argue the purple OT just in case you start damage checking your Colossuses, and it's like, well, that gives you a way to get them back to hand. It's the OT is like such a weird flex spot, and like I I I try to test it, but like you're not gonna hit your OT every game, right? So you just kind of gotta take it and hope you pick the choice that will work best for the deck. And for now I'm satisfied with the choice of Vamfreeze. But that is it for this profile. Uh, a little bit of a longer one. I apologize. A lot of the cards were new, so I just wanted to spend time talking about them and also gushing about the art because Gear Colossuses are so cool. Uh, we have a bit planned for very soon. Zorga's obviously got to get shown off. I got Liel. I've got Nanaclear from the new set. Impaldio got a new card. So we do have we still have a bit coming out, and I look forward to posting it all. And I don't know exactly. I think it's Thursday. Thursday they're gonna talk about the 15th anniversary starter product, the Dragonic Overlord, I believe. I'm probably gonna make a video on that just because I've always been a big fan of Overlord. So I'll just go on a rant gushing about the new cards probably, and if you want to check that out, it'll be fun. But other than that, that's it for this video. I hope to see you guys in the next one. Peace.